Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. It was a blazing Thursday morning when my world cracked. Not with thunder, but with a ping. I was crouched under the hood of a 2003 Dodge Caravan, sweat trailing down my temples, the engine steaming slightly while I twisted a stubborn bolt free. Just as my wrench slipped and scraped skin, my phone vibrated in my pocket. Probably Ron asking if I'd finished the brake job, or maybe one of the guys wanting lunch recommendations. But when I saw the name, Melanie, I stopped breathing for a second. We hadn't really spoken since Sunday. She'd slammed the bedroom door so hard the thermostat rattled off the wall. The silence since then had been deafening, but this message wasn't a white flag. It was a bullet. I'm leaving with Ian. Don't try to call. Figure out the mortgage. Wish you the best. That emoji. That stupid, smirking emoji. I stared at it as my fingers went numb and the socket wrench slipped from my hand, hitting the concrete with a dull clang. For a moment, I genuinely thought I was reading someone else's heartbreak. But no, this was mine. She didn't call. She didn't cry. She didn't even try to lie. Just a smug, half-hearted digital smile and a farewell that felt like a transaction. 9 years. 2 miscarriages. 1 dog. Hundreds of arguments. Thousands of compromises. And it ended with a smiley face. But here's the thing. I wasn't shocked. Not really. There were signs. Subtle shifts. The new gym routine she didn't want me joining. Business dinners that turned into silence after midnight. Makeup kits that started appearing from brands I'd never seen. Her phone suddenly face down. Laughter that never reached me anymore. And I've been watching. Not in the way people mean when they say they're suspicious. I mean really watching. 3 months earlier, I'd installed a hidden camera above the spice rack in our kitchen, angled just enough to catch the hallway. I rerouted our bank statements to my work email, and I made a backup of every digital footprint she didn't think I noticed. This wasn't paranoia. This was survival. She thought she was winning. Melanie always did. She wore lies like perfume, subtle, sweet, and hard to notice at first. But I had her scent. Earlier that week, I'd moved every last cent from our savings into a trust under my sister's name, reassigned the house title, froze joint accounts, left a breadcrumb trail of legal protections that made sure she wouldn't just walk away with a suitcase of illusions and leave me holding the wreckage. When I read her message again, I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt clarity. I walked into the house and saw it immediately. Her red jacket missing from the coat hook. Lipstick stained wine glasses in the sink. Half a shoe by the front closet. A curling iron still hot in the bathroom. She wasn't fleeing. She was escaping. She thought she could sneak out with her fantasy before anyone noticed. But I noticed. And now, I was awake. I sat on the living room couch, pulled down a worn shoebox from the closet, and opened it. Inside were printed screenshots. Passwords. A hard drive labeled, "Maybe I'm not crazy." And our prenuptial agreement. Her idea. She'd laughed when she signed it. "It's just smart," she'd said. "I'll never use it. But who knows, right?" She was right. She never used it. I did. No alimony clause. No shared debts. Anything acquired before marriage. Protected. Infidelity clause. She didn't want one. Good. She just set herself on fire in my name and forgot I'd built the fireproof walls around me. That night, I didn't cry. I filed a notice of abandonment. Petition for expedited divorce. Immediate financial protections. By morning, the locks had changed. Her cards declined. Her accounts frozen. Her text messages unanswered. The storm had arrived. And Melanie, for all her games and whispers, had just learned that I wasn't the fool she thought I was. I was the storm she created. The next morning, the knock on my door came at exactly 8:12 a.m. Not a soft knock. Not tentative. It was the kind of knock someone uses when they think they still have rights. Like the world owed them a moment, owed them an audience. I didn't move. I just watched through the Ring app on my phone. There she was, Melanie. Same smudged eyeliner from the night before, a cheap canvas bag over her shoulder, her once meticulous ponytail unraveling at the edges. She was alone. No Ian. No car. Just a purse, a phone clenched in her shaking hand, and the look of someone whose fantasy had just blown a tire at 80 miles per hour. I opened the door slow, calm, coffee in hand, like it was any other Saturday morning. I didn't speak. She pushed past me like it was still her house. You froze my accounts, she shouted, turning with venom. I couldn't even get gas. I had to walk, Reed. I took a sip of my coffee. You froze our marriage the moment you texted me from a Chevron station. She blinked. You can't just lock me out like this, she snapped. I didn't, I said. You did that. The second you walked away and let someone else into our life. You left. That wasn't what it looked like. Then tell me, Mel. What was it? She stammered. It's not about Ian. Then what was he doing in our kitchen on March 14th? Opening our fridge like it was his. Her eyes widened just for a second. The mask slipped. Then she pulled it tight again. You were spying on me? No, I said calmly. I was protecting myself. You thought you were moving pieces on a chessboard. But I wasn't your pawn. I was your mirror. I'll let you dig your own grave. She moved toward the hallway. I'm just here for my stuff. My clothes. My laptop. My life. I handed her a sealed box. I packed it for you last night. You went through my things. I removed your presents. Not the same thing. She didn't take it. She stared at the box like it contained a bomb. You're really not going to fight for me? She whispered. After everything? I laughed, a hollow, tired sound. You sent me a text like I was a stranger you once met at a gas station. You ended a 9-year marriage with a grinning emoji. You weren't asking for conversation. You were closing the door. I'm just making sure it doesn't hit you on the way out. That's when she snapped. You're going to regret this, Reed. I'll make sure you do. Thanks for the heads up, I said, echoing her last message. Again, she left, and I didn't stop her. But I knew she'd be back. Not because she missed me. Not even because she regretted it. Because she was losing. And women like Melanie don't lose with grace. They come back with fire. So I prepared. I called Eric Mercer, an old army buddy turned private investigator. Quiet, efficient, dangerous when necessary. I sent him everything, screenshots, camera footage, bank logs, her burner number. I want to know where she goes, what she's doing, who she's doing it with. His response, give me 48 hours. That night, she tried to log into the smart home system. Twice. From a motel IP address. I blocked her. At 3:09 a.m., I got an alert. Movement on the side alley cam. It was her. In a hoodie. Creeping past the bushes like a thief. Flashlight in hand. She tried the side garage door. Still knew where I kept the spare key. But I'd already disabled it. She left angry. And I recorded every second. By noon, Melanie was back online. Posting. A long, vague status on Facebook. Some people are heartless. You give your life to someone, and they throw you out like trash. But God sees all. Sympathy rolled in from her old yoga friends, college roommates, coworkers who knew half the story and assumed I was Satan in overalls. I didn't reply, but I saw what she was doing. She was building her defense. Not for her friends. For a courtroom. 3 days later, Eric called. She's staying with Ian. Motel 6 off I-84. Use cash. He's broke, Reed. Real name's Ian Callister. Suspended license. Eviction record. No job. No prospects. He sent photos. Melanie screaming at Ian in the parking lot. Him standing back, arms up. Her sitting on the hood of a beat-up Corolla, mascara streaked down her face. She didn't trade up. She traded down and gambled everything on a con man. By now, she was desperate. And desperation is dangerous. She tried to file a false welfare complaint. Told social services there was a child in the house. One I was neglecting. I let the caseworker in. Showed her the guest bedroom. Neatly made. No toys. No signs of a child. She left shaking her head. We've seen worse, she said. But never from someone so calculated. Melanie was trying to paint me as unstable. She called my boss. Claimed I was breaking down, acting erratic, possibly self-harming. My boss, Darren, called me into his office. She said you were a threat to yourself, he said gently. HR had to file a report, but I told them it didn't sound like you. Still, they'll be watching. That's when I knew. She wasn't trying to come back. She was trying to destroy me. But she made one mistake. She thought the man she left was the same one still living here. She didn't know I was reborn in fire. And that fire was just getting started. It was early on a gray Tuesday when Eric called again, voice steady, but this time with an edge I hadn't heard before. You're not going to like this, he said. Try me. She's in contact with someone named Richard Ellison. Divorce lawyer. Reputation. Ugly. Known for manipulating narratives, planting evidence, playing the emotional abuse card. He's helped wives win everything from beach houses to businesses, without a shred of actual abuse. Jen has hired him. I felt the breath leave my chest for a second, but not from fear, from rage. She's playing long game, I said. No, Eric replied. She's playing final game, and she's going for blood. That night, Melanie returned. Not to the house, not sneaking around. She showed up at my job, walked into the warehouse in full view of every worker, dressed like she just stepped off a legal drama set. White blouse, long black coat, hair curled to perfection. She knew what she was doing. She wanted eyes. Reed, she said loudly, crossing the lot. We need to talk. Darren stepped between us. You're not allowed here. She held up a paper. I just need a moment. I'm not here to fight, just here to deliver something. I took the envelope from her without a word. She left with a smirk like she'd just dropped a grenade. Inside, a formal petition. She was contesting the divorce, citing emotional abandonment, mental instability, claiming I isolated her from friends and finances, and created a hostile environment. She was requesting temporary occupancy of the house, spousal support, and, just to twist the knife, half the remaining savings. She painted herself as the victim, a woman cast aside, denied dignity, driven from her home by a man unhinged. And the worst part, with her lawyer's touch, it looked real. That night, I didn't sleep. I stood in the living room, staring at the photos on the walls, the one she used to stand beside, smiling for cameras and strangers. The memories felt like poison now, and I made a decision. I called Valerie Russo, an attorney I'd been consulting quietly. Smart, sharp, surgical with her arguments. I want to fight, I told her. I don't just want to win. I want the truth known. Then we go all in, she said. But you better have proof. I had plenty. We met at her office the next day. I handed her 3 hard drives, a binder full of screenshots, financial records, a list of every login attempt for Melanie's burner devices, and, finally, a notarized copy of our prenup. Valerie smiled. We'll bury her story in facts. 3 days later, court. It was a muted room. No jury. Just a judge named Honorable Marissa Claremont. Late 50s. No nonsense. Famous for her distaste of social theatrics. That alone gave me hope. Melanie showed up looking like she'd rehearsed in a mirror for hours. Modest cardigan. Tear-free mascara. Leather folder clutched to her chest like she was bracing for war. Her lawyer, Richard Ellison, wore a $2,000 suit and an ego worth 10 times that. He opened with flair. My client, he said, has endured an emotionally degrading environment for years. Mr. Harper exercised control over every financial avenue, employed surveillance technology in their home, and manipulated the narrative post-separation. She fled for her mental safety. The judge looked unimpressed. Was she ever legally removed from the property? Claremont asked. No, but. Was she on the deed? No, but. Then she wasn't evicted. Continue. Valerie stood. Calm. Composed. Lethal. She walked to the center, dropped a flash drive on the table. Your Honor, this drive contains footage of the petitioner entering the property on March 18th without consent. A second entry attempt on April 2nd. And a motion capture sequence where she tried to access a safe. Additionally, we've included screenshots of text messages between the petitioner and a third party named Ian Callister, where she explicitly stated, once I'm back in the house, it's just a matter of time. The judge raised an eyebrow. Valerie continued. We also have a signed affidavit from Mr. Callister confirming Melanie attempted to lease a vehicle in his name while still married, and that she encouraged him to provoke my client during a staged encounter at a local diner. Melanie's face began to change. The mask, cracking. Richard tried to object, but the judge waved him off. Sit down, Mr. Ellison. Then Valerie said the words that truly ended it. We are also submitting audio of the petitioner calling a welfare check on a non-existent child, implying Mr. Harper had endangered a minor to prompt forced entry and psychological investigation. CPS found no evidence. There is no child. Judge Claremont sat back, her eyes cold. You lied to social services? She asked Melanie directly. Melanie didn't respond. Motion denied. Petition for reentry. Rejected. Restraining order pending. Financial claims. Tossed. The room stayed silent for a full minute after the gavel dropped. Melanie stood. No dramatic outburst. Just a quiet shuffle of papers. She didn't look at me. Didn't look at Valerie. She just left. I walked outside and took my first deep breath in months. Not because it was over, but because I had survived her story. And now it was my story to write. After the court ruling, most people would have disappeared, licked their wounds, grieved their losses. But not Melanie. She didn't retreat. She reinvented. Her social media turned from vague sadness to righteous fury. She posted stories, long, curated paragraphs about betrayal, about narcissistic trauma, about how she had survived years in a toxic marriage with a man who isolated her, erased her, and monitored her like a prisoner. And people believed it. Even with the court ruling against her, she weaponized perception. The likes rolled in. So did the comments. She's so strong. Men are trash. Justice will find you, girl. No one asked for evidence. No one cared. Because Melanie didn't need facts. She had a better weapon. Attention. That's when the calls started at my job again. First it was HR. Then Darren, my boss. She reached out again, he said. Said she was concerned about your mental health. That we should document any outbursts or signs of distress. She even contacted Paige and HR directly. Said you might be withholding a history of emotional instability. My stomach turned. It was sabotage, dressed as compassion. She's trying to lay the groundwork, I said, for a breakdown that never happened. Yeah, Darren said grimly. But here's the thing. Paige forwarded her email, and I want you to see it. He handed me a printed copy. I read it. 3 paragraphs of faux concern, ending with, if he says anything unusual or shows signs of stress, please make a note. I'm collecting these as part of my defense strategy. Collecting. That single word triggered something deep in me. She wasn't grieving a marriage. She was building a case. But she made one mistake. She wrote that email after the court denied her claims and barred direct legal manipulation. It was a violation, not just ethically, legally. Valerie didn't even hesitate. We filed for an injunction the next morning. While that motion was pending, Melanie tried her final act. She showed up to the house one last time. This time, not alone. She arrived with Marka, a third-party retrieval supervisor, part of the post-court agreement. Melanie wasn't allowed and unsupervised, but she could collect the last of her items under observation. When I opened the door, Marka gave me a clipboard. Melanie stood behind her. No jewelry, no makeup, no heels, just a woman with nothing left. I've listed the items I want, she said quietly. I nodded and led them inside. She took only what the court allowed. Clothes, a few keepsakes, her old laptop. No drama, no stares. She didn't even look at the photos on the wall anymore. Just checked boxes, lifted her things, and walked back to the sidewalk. Then she paused, turned to me. Was any of it real? She asked. For a moment, her voice sounded like it used to. Soft, unsure, human. I didn't answer immediately. I thought about the time she traced the shape of stars on my forearm while we lay on a blanket under our first apartment's rooftop. Thought about our road trips, our shared playlists, her laugh in the passenger seat. It was real, I finally said, until you replaced it with lies. She flinched and walked away. That night, I gathered the last remnants of her in a shoebox. A wedding invite, a faded love note, a scarf she left behind. I didn't burn them. I didn't rage. I boxed them, labeled it, closed. And then I did something she didn't expect. I sent her a final envelope. Inside, a formal notarized statement from my lawyer. It read, as per our agreement, this settlement closes all claims, past, present, and future. All further contact will be considered a violation of court order boundaries. Attached is the reimbursement for your requested therapy expenses. She'd requested $2,000 for mental recovery therapy. We didn't grant it. Instead, I enclosed a check for $1. Not to mock her, to define her. That dollar was traceable, taxed, legally documented. Her final worth in my story. And with it, I wrote a note by hand. For services rendered. You taught me exactly what never to accept again. No name, no signature. Because the man she married no longer existed. Only the man she created remained. 2 weeks passed in eerie stillness. No calls, no voicemails, no emails from lawyers, no anonymous CPS tips, no masked appearances outside my bedroom window. Melanie had gone quiet. Too quiet. I wasn't fooled. People like her don't vanish. They regroup. Then came the final blow. Not from her. Not directly. From Eric, my PI. You sitting down? He asked. Just hit me. She's been in touch with a guy at your job. Someone in HR. I froze. Paige. Yeah. Melanie reached out under the table. Not about your well-being. She wanted to plan a story. Said she was afraid you'd snap under stress. Asked Paige to forward any internal reports about your conduct. What did Paige say? Forwarded the email. Didn't respond. She tried to paint me as a powder keg. An unhinged ex-husband, one bad day away from becoming a headline. She was engineering my downfall. But she didn't realize she'd gone too far. Because the judge had explicitly barred further indirect communication via professional channels after our last hearing. And Paige, she saved everything. Valerie filed the final motion, an injunction for willful boundary violations. That was the legal nail, and I didn't even have to lift a finger. When the server delivered it to her apartment, Melanie didn't scream, didn't post cryptic quotes online, didn't run. She showed up one last time, under escort. Mark again, clipboard in hand. This time, Melanie wasn't even pretending. No designer clothes. No drama. Just 2 cardboard boxes and a signature. She packed quietly. Didn't ask about the dog. Didn't look at the fridge photos. But as she reached for her last tote, she paused, glanced at the mirror on the hallway wall. The same one we'd picked out at that weird little antique store in Portland during her honeymoon. She stared into it like she was expecting her old reflection to appear. But only a stranger looked back. And then she turned to me. Eyes not angry, not tearful, just gone. What happened to us? She whispered. I didn't flinch. You happened to us. She didn't argue, didn't beg, just carried her things to the porch and vanished down the steps. That night, I went to the fire pit, the one she hated because the smoke messed up her hair. I lit it, not out of rage, but for closure. I burned the last photo of us together. Her scarf, a copy of her fake wellness tip-off, the hoodie she wore the night she tried to sneak in. The flames didn't roar. They cleansed. Eric sent me one final file days later, an audio recording. He tracked a private phone call between her and her lawyer, Richard Ellison. He never took the bait, Melanie said. He didn't snap. He didn't yell. He didn't even raise his voice. That was the point, Richard replied. We needed him to explode. Just once. I told you. Without it, you're just another girl with a story. She was quiet for a second. Then she muttered, he's different now. That file never made it to court. Didn't need to. Because I had already won. Not in the courtroom. In myself. I'd outlasted the storm. Outmaneuvered her lies. Outlived the version of me she tried to kill with manipulation and gaslighting. And in the ashes, I found peace. Not because I got revenge. Not because I hurt her back. Because I ended her place in my story. The house is quiet now. No echoes of slammed doors. No perfume hiding secrets. Just me, and a life I rebuilt with calloused hands and brutal honesty. Sometimes, when I pass the mirror, I still catch a glimpse of who I used to be. The man who would have begged her to stay, who would have believed her lies, who would have doubted his own gut just to avoid a fight. That man is gone, and in his place stands someone sharper, calmer, free. Melanie tried to write the end of our story, but what she never understood was, I was just getting started on chapter 1 of mine.